Hi guys, Tracy here with another episode of Scrapchat. This is my question and answer video segment that for those of you who are new to my channel, you might not know about this, but I think it was over the summer that I started doing these because YouTube was making it really difficult for me to reply to people's questions on my videos. And so I very rarely use a computer only to make my videos and edit them and edit my photos and stuff. So with my iPad, I was just not able to respond to people's questions. And so I started this video segment as a kind of monthly-ish type of video that would allow me to answer people's questions. So in the meantime, life got busy and also YouTube changed once again so that it was easier for me again to reply to people. So I've been trying to keep up with replying to questions on YouTube as they come up, but every once in a while I still encounter a question that I feel needs a little bit more of an explanation, or maybe I kind of could answer it quickly, but I'd rather give it a little bit more time, especially for those questions that people tend to ask. You know, multiple people tend to ask that question again and again, and so instead of saying it over and over again, I thought I would kind of keep those questions reserved so that I could do a Scrapchat question and answer video. So that's what this is. So I just have a list of questions here in my little notebook that I'm just going to refer to as I talk to you guys, and I'm also going to show you a few things as I do this. So the first one I didn't write who asked this, but I've had a couple of questions about this, and I think I have some new subscribers who are asking this because I have addressed this before, but I'm happy to talk about it again. So somebody asked, why do I outline, and how do I decide when I outline and when I don't outline? And so I do outlining, and I understand that I say that with an accent, and it's not outlining as in oatmeal, it's O-U-T lining. Somebody said, a long time ago, somebody said that every time I say that I'm outlining, they imagine it as O-A-T-L-I-N-I-N-G. And that really stuck with me. And every time I say it, I went through a phase where I was trying to say outlining. So that's just not how I talk. So it's outlining. I have a couple of examples here of times that I've used outlining. Just a second. They got all mixed up again. So a couple of recent-ish layouts. Okay, so I will show you these. So I use it for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I use it as a way to kind of finish the edges. So on this layout, for example, all of these papers have, or a lot of them, almost all of the papers have outlining on them. So you'll see that the circle has some, I gotta figure out, it's been a while since I've done this. So the, this is everything is backwards on my webcam. So so these strips here, see how they're just, I find that it just finishes off paper. It's a nice alternative to inking the edges, and I find inking edges kind of messy, and I really like the look of the outlines. So that's one example of outlining. And usually if I outline some of the papers, I outline all of them just so that they all look like they match. And here's an example where I did some outlining and some not. So this is a layout that I did. There is a process video for both of these on my channel. So for this one, although the pull time might be, I can't remember if the pull time was part of a class I did. I can't remember. I'll check, and if I have a process video for pull time, I will link it. So this one here, for this one, I did outlining as a way of finishing, and then you'll notice that some of the papers, especially this cut paper, this punched, and then this one, don't have outlining on it. So the times when I might not do outlining would be, like for this mat, it would be a little distracting to do outlining, and for this, it would be tedious to do outlining. Sometimes I'll do it even when it's tedious, but oftentimes I won't. Yeah, so I use it to finish off the edges, and I also use it to differentiate between the layers, and this layout gives me a really good example of times when outlining helps to differentiate between the layers, because this paper this one right here with that I have my finger on, and this paper, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two of them. And so this line just helps to accentuate the difference between those two papers, so that this one doesn't get, the edge of this one doesn't get lost on the pattern of this one. So that's an example of differentiating. And sometimes I do it for impact or to add weight to a layout. And so oftentimes if I really want to add impact, I will outline with a thicker marker. So this is the large side, I think it's a 1.2 point pen, and this kind of thicker outlining really adds a lot of emphasis and weight to a layout. So you'll notice that I did regular outlining on this piece right here, this Polaroid frame, and then I did heavier outlining on this, which just kind of gives it a little bit more weight, especially where these lighter colors right here are kind of in the middle of this. I wanted this to be an anchoring piece, and so by outlining it, it becomes a little bit heavier and provides a little bit of balance with this really dark title and this other dark element here with the wood grain hello. And so it just kind of pulls a little bit more weight onto that title, or not that title, but that strip, which because of the yellow in the middle of it was a little bit airy and light feeling. And then I also outlined all the way around it just for impact as well with that bold marker. And a really bold dark marker will provide a lot of contrast as well if that's something that you're trying to get on your layout. So I use it for weight and balance, I use it to finish the edges, I use it to differentiate between the layers, I use it for impact, and then another reason that I use it is that just over the years, it's really just become a part of my style of scrapbooking, and so I'll grab a layout that I just did recently. So this is a layout that I just did very recently that, oh, it's upside down, sorry guys. Is that how it goes? No, it goes like this. So this layout is, because it has so many pictures on it, it's really not consistent with some of the other layouts that are in my scrapbook. And I'm kind of eclectic with my scrapbook anyways, and I don't really care, I'll mix different styles together. But I really felt like this one, because it's so different, I very rarely scrapbook with 5 large pictures on a layout. And that really limits and changes the layout because you can only put so much. And so I didn't have as many layers as I usually have, and I didn't have as much negative space as I usually have. So I had to figure out a way that I could make this layout feel like it's mine. And that's just something that I want. Like, I want my scrapbooks to look like they're mine. And so it has a little bit less to do with consistency within the album, although that is a small part of it, and more to do with I want to like this layout. And so what I did was I added some outlining to it. You'll see it right there on the top and on the bottom. There's a process video for this one too. And so by adding the outlining, this allowed this layout to feel a little bit more consistent with my style. So Sherry asked me about swatches, and I actually already did a Scrap Room Sunday video about that. So I will link that information in the information. I'll link the link to that in the information section for this video. And she was asking me about my swatches for mists and how they look and how I do them. So I did an entire video about that. So sometimes when people ask me questions, it gives me an idea for a whole video. So thanks for the feedback and questions. I really appreciate them. Okay, so the next question that I get a lot of is, how do I print my photos? I print my photos in a lot of different sizes, and so I think people have a lot of questions because of that, and I do refer to the fact that I do print my photos at home. So I have a Epson PictureMate Charm, which is a small portable printer that prints 4x6 photos. I really love it, and I do have no, I don't actually. I had a review of it, but I lost it somewhere along the way before I posted it. The Canon selfie is probably the other alternative that's out there. There might be others too, but those are the two popular ones. I know that this selfie was very popular Christmas present for people this year. Lucky ducks, you've got one. And so, yeah, that's how I print. And I think the question was about how I print in different sizes, because I'm often printing 3x3s, 2x2s, 2x3s, and lots of different options like that. So I'm not very technically oriented, so I am not able to help you guys with printing your photos, but what I've done is I've made a tutorial on how I do my photos. And so if you happen to have the same kind of a computer as I have and use the same software that I have a Mac and I use iPhoto for managing and printing my photos. And so if you happen to use iPhoto, you can check out my video. I will link it in the information section for this one. And it just kind of walks you through how to use iPhoto and just kind of change the settings so that you can print your pictures in any size. Now, one thing that I haven't figured out how to do, maybe you can do it, but one thing that I don't tell you how to do in that tutorial, maybe it's possible with iPhone or with iPhoto, or maybe it isn't, is how to get 2 3x4 photos onto a 4x6 piece of paper. So I know that is something that a lot of people want to do, because the 3x4s, if you print like 2 photos on one sheet, they will fit into the 3x4 pockets in Pocket Pages, and that's really handy to have, and it saves you paper. iMovie is a little bit finicky, and there's probably some way to do that, but I haven't taken the time to figure it out, and I'm not all that interested in figuring it out. So I print my 3x4 photos onto one 4x6 sheet. It does tell you how to do it in that tutorial, but it won't tell you how to get 2 on one sheet of paper. So if you're looking to get 2 on one sheet of paper, I know that you can do that on Photoshop, and I know that I'm pretty sure that you can do it in Picasso, and there are probably a couple of other different ways that you can do it too, but I can't help you with how to do it because I don't do it that way. So sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sure it's doable. It's probably pretty easy, but I just can't be the one who helps you figure that out. So then I have another question here, and I can't remember who asked me that. It's a very recent question, and it's a really, really good one. Somebody is asking me for tips for a beginner on how to build your stash and kind of move into scrapbooking as a beginner. And so what I'm going to do is I've actually taken some time to think this through, and I have quite a bit of notes here on it, and I'm going to make a whole separate video about building a stash as a beginner. So have a look on my channel for that. It'll be coming up pretty soon. Then I got quite a few questions both on Instagram and Facebook and here on YouTube about my December daily, and will I be doing a December daily flip through to show you my pages. I won't be sharing my December daily because I actually didn't do a December daily this year. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For one thing, I had done a December daily last year, and that was actually my first year doing a daily December documentation project. And I really enjoyed it, but I didn't want to repeat it this year. I enjoyed it for what it was, but a lot of my traditions are the same every year, and I don't really feel the need to document them, but there's something else. So Decembers tend to run short on both time and money for me. So I'm kind of, it's at the end of the year, and Christmas is an expensive holiday, and there's travel and there's food and there's all kinds of stuff that you have to do to prepare. And so I don't have a whole lot of time for extra scrapbooking. And so I decided this year that I would just stick to 12x12s. And what I ended up doing was making a lot more 12x12 layouts than I normally would make in the holidays. And so I really, really love 12x12s. Like, it's where my heart is. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of not doing a December daily. But the other thing is that I think sometimes we as scrapbookers get pulled into these trends, and not everybody gets pulled in for this particular reason. There's lots of good reasons to do a daily documentation project for December, because the holidays are a big part of our lives and in our culture. But for me, sometimes I feel like I'm pulled into these trends more because like I want to partake in it because everybody else is doing it and it's exciting and it's kind of on trend, and there's so many beautiful supplies that come designed to help you with December daily or documenting December or whatever you want to call it. And so for me, I just decided to kind of take a step off of that train for this season and let it kind of pass me by and watch everybody else. And I've really enjoyed getting glimpses of everybody else's projects this year, but I didn't feel compelled to do my own or to buy my own kit and kind of really jump in with both feet. What I did instead, because there are beautiful products for the holiday, but I tend to buy beautiful products year after year after year. So I do have a lot of them in my stash still, and I keep all of my holiday Christmas stuff together in my stash. And so I decided that I would really make an effort of drawing from my past supplies from previous years, but also I really wanted to focus on using a few of the supplies that I really liked this year. So when the Scraptastic kit was released for December, I not the documenting December like the stocking stuffer kit, but when the main monthly kits came out, I decided to go with the holiday themed main kit, which allowed me to have some new papers from the new products and kind of have some of what everybody else was partaking in, but also not have like a whole big huge kit full of it, because I already have a whole big huge kit of it from last year that I didn't use up. So I'm kind of using a combination of this year's kit and then drawing from my stash. And then the other thing that I did was I bought, just let me grab it here. I bought the Freckled Fawn embellishment kit for the holidays. And this was released a couple of months before Christmas. And it just kind of has a couple of unique little special embellishments that are, new and it basically allowed me to kind of freshen up my stash. And I got that before the Scraptastic kit was released, so I didn't for December was released, so I didn't know it was coming. But it ended up that kit really went well with the December scrapbooking kit from Scraptastic, and so that really met my needs. And then I did pull from my stash a couple times as well, and I do have in lieu of a documenting December type of flip through, what I have is I've put together a blog post where I just included videos from all of my holiday themed 12 by 12 layout. So you can have a look at that. I will link it in the information section below. So my next question is, what kind of a typewriter do I have, and what is the difference between a vintage typewriter and an electric typewriter, and does it make a difference, or can you just use an electric typewriter and get the same quality or the same type of outcome? I think that was it. I didn't write it down very well, but I think that was the question. This is my typewriter. It is a Brother Charger 11, and I got this on Kijiji, and Kijiji is kind of like our version of Craigslist. We have Craigslist, but not many people use it. So I got it used off of Kijiji, obviously used, it's very old, and it is not electric, it's a manual typewriter, and isn't it beautiful? So that is my typewriter. It's pretty small, and it's surprisingly light. It's a portable one. It comes with a cover and a case, and you can carry it around with you and stuff, but I just leave it in one place in my scrap room. Let me just so this is what it looks like. This is from a recent layout that I did, and you'll see that that's the typewriting right there, and it's not very uniform. The letters make a different size, like they're different heaviness depending on how hard you're punching the keys, and probably like variations in the typewriter ribbon and that sort of thing. And some of the keys are different, or just kind of like a little twisted or a little bit different. And so that just makes for a very interesting typewriter font as opposed to a computer generated typewriter font. Now before I had that, this is actually my third typewriter. So before I had that one, I had this one, which was ugly. This is my Instagram here. This is one ugly typewriter, I have to say. It was like a beige color. It was a plug-in, but it gave the same outlook, like the output. So it still had variations of keys. It still had the kind of keys that have the little hammer, like the little arm that goes up and bangs onto the piece of paper. What that does is it actually puts a little tiny bit of an indent in the paper so that the letter, there's actually texture to typewritten paper with a vintage typewriter. I don't know when either of these typewriters are from. This one was a plug-in, but it still had the little, I think the key is to have individual arms that come up, like to have the kind that when you press the button, a little hammer comes up and presses onto the paper really quickly. That gives you that vintage look. So this one was plug-in. It was an Olympia Regina Electric C is what was written on it. This one broke in the middle of a project, which is why I immediately, like within moments, I cried a little, and then I went on to Kijiji and found that one and was very excited, and I literally like stopped everything and went and got it and then came back and finished my project. So that was kind of crazy. Before I had that ugly one, I had, and I actually still do have this typewriter. It wasn't my dad's, it was my mom's, but my dad had given it to her, so it has some sentimental value. And so I had another typewriter that was from the 80s. Yeah, I think it was from the 80s. And it was an electric, and it was fancy, and it didn't have the little individual arms. Instead, it had a little cartridge inside that would turn and go back and forth to imprint your word, your letter. And so it makes, I just have, this is something from my project Life from 2012, and this is an example of the typing. And so you'll see that I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but it's a lot more uniform, and it doesn't quite look like it's not like a dot matrix printer. It's more like an inkjet printer with a typewriter font. And so that is what so you will get a slightly different look with a modern typewriter. I don't think it matters whether it is whether it's electric or non-electric. It's more about, do the keys individually come up and hit the paper to put the letter on it. So good luck finding a typewriter, because it's really fun shopping for them, and they're really pretty, and I love them. So have fun. So the next question is about my microphone. People were asking me what kind of microphone I got, because you guys noticed that, well, because I pointed it out, but I got a new microphone for Christmas, and I'm sorry, as I move it around here, it might make some noises that don't sound good on this video, but this is what it looks like. It is a blue Yeti, and I'm just going to move this because this is something else. This is a pop filter. So it's the blue Yeti. And it was a total surprise. I was not expecting to get it. It's very fancy and cool looking. I feel like a radio announcer or something when I use it. It's very cool. It's just like gorgeous. I just love it. And it sounds really good, as you guys have noticed. It works really well for me. It is wired, and it's wired through a USB, and there's a place on it at the front that you can mute it, and then this is your headphone volume, because you can plug your headphones in. You can plug your headphones in. So, and then as a separate purchase that I just bought after Christmas because I thought it looked cool and thought it might sound cool, is the blue pop filter that goes with it. So it just attaches on the back like this, and it's really what this does. Sorry, I don't know if you guys are even going to be able to hear this very well, but what this pop filter does is it keeps my P's from being too poppy. So pop 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 versus pop 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 pop. So I hope that made a difference, because if not, then this wasn't worth it. I haven't checked it out. I just put it on and started using it. So that's what it looks like. And then you'll notice there are some buttons in the back. The gain one controls how much background sound, so how sensitive it is to background sounds. And then The other one here is just the different settings that you can put it on. So you can put this microphone on settings so that it can hear all the way around. You can put it on a setting so that it hears kind of like on each side, so that if you were doing an interview with two people, or if you were doing kind of like group singing and everybody's over here and it picks up like a wide range, or it just in front. And I just have it on the just in front setting, which is like a little upside down heart. It looks like an upside down heart. So I have another question here from somebody recently, and she wants to know, and actually I have a question for her too. Her name is maybe Suze Fish or Susie Fish, or maybe something completely different than that, but those are my two best guesses. And so my question for you is, how do you pronounce your name? Because I see your name around a lot. I think you comment, and I see you around, and I'd love to know in my head how I'm supposed to be pronouncing your name so I'm getting it right. But anyhow, she's asking if I feel put off or nervous by the camera when I'm doing my process video, and whether I'm less inclined to take risks when the camera is rolling than otherwise. And I think she's referring to when I'm making process videos when she's asking this question. When it comes to this kind of a thing, I definitely feel more nervous and self-conscious when I'm on this side of the camera. I feel a lot more comfortable being on that other side of the camera. But I get good feedback about these videos, and I know, and I think some people tell me that it's nice to put a face and that sort of thing, so I'm getting more comfortable as I practice it, but definitely uncomfortable here. But for process videos, I've been doing process videos for so long that I don't really feel less inclined to take risks or self-conscious or anything when I'm doing them at this point, but I'm just kind of trying to think back, because I'm pretty sure that I was the first person to do process videos. I was definitely the first person to do like more than one or two process videos, and I think I coined the phrase process video. I might have done it concurrently with somebody else, but I definitely made up that phrase because I remember thinking about what am I going to call these, and process video is what I called it. And so I've been doing them for a long time, is my point of saying this. And so I'm just trying to think back of how I felt when I first started. I do remember feeling definitely self-conscious and definitely kind of like wanting to make if I was doing a process video, I wanted that layout to be like the best layout I ever did. And I think I made a conscious decision at the very beginning of making these videos and deciding to make these videos and deciding to make more than one or two of them and make it kind of like my thing. I made a conscious decision to make sure that I was being really real and really it was me scrapbooking, and that's all that it was. It wasn't a big production. I didn't think ahead about what I was going to do. And if you go back and watch some of my really, really old videos, you'll notice that I didn't really have my own sense of style yet. I was very early in my scrapbooking life, and I didn't have a good sense of what was my style. I didn't always know what was going to look good, and I often posted, and like I kept them. I didn't edit out, and I went through with uploading layouts even if they weren't my favorites, or even if I thought they were actually awful. So there was one layout that's actually not all that old. It's just from last year, about the wrinkly hands on my kids. My kids were in the pool for so long that they were wrinkly, and it's like a really hideous layout. Like, it is ugly. I don't think that anybody would disagree with me. Like, I don't know, maybe it might appeal to somebody, but I think most people would agree that layout was definitely not my best work. And I'll try to put a link to that. It's something about wrinkly fingers, and I can't remember. I won't be able to find it very easily, but that's a good example. That's a good recent example. And then there are other examples. The further back you go, the more wacky layouts you'll see from me, because I just didn't have my groove yet. Like, I didn't know what I liked and what looked good for me and that sort of thing. So I think having made the decision early on to include my entire process, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and really keep it real, it allowed me, once I did that a couple times, like once I got through my first, like, ugh, I don't really like this, but let's just put it up anyway. And I would get good feedback, and people would say, I'm really glad that you left that mistake in, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who makes mistakes. And it looks, when I watch people's blogs or videos, it seems like everybody's got it all together and they've got all these pieces that are already cut the right size and they all fit perfectly. And that's just not how I scrapbook. So I got such good feedback about the times that I did mess up, that it really helped me have the confidence to keep on messing up. And so I think it's really just because of you guys, like the people who view these videos and give me the feedback. That's why I have the confidence to take the risks that I do take. And I don't know if they're not that big of risks, but I just feel like, you know, the YouTube community within crafting anyways, I know it's probably not like this everywhere, but the YouTube community within crafting is so supportive and so friendly and so inviting and so appreciative that it really makes it easy for you to do what you do and know that people who don't like it don't need to watch, and people who like it will watch, and hopefully they'll say something nice, because it really brightens my day when I get comments. I know I can't, I mean, because I've been around as long as I have been, I have a sizable channel, and so I can't reply to everybody's comments, and I can't say, you know, thank you every single time that somebody says something nice. But know that I do read every single one of your comments, and I really do appreciate them, and it really does help keep me going, and it helps us all keep going. So it's really important that you leave kind feedback when you watch a video that you appreciate and that you like, or, you know, like if you like the way that somebody does something or doesn't do something, that you give them that kind of feedback, because it really does help fuel it and keep it going. And I mean, I'm at the point now where making videos is as much of my hobby as scrapbooking is. So I actually, like, I look forward to sitting down at my computer and narrating and remembering all the things I did, and remembering the names of all the papers. Like, it's kind of like that's part of the process for me now, and I really love doing that. So so I kind of got away from the question, but I think that feeling nervous and put off and not taking risks in your layouts when you have a video camera rolling is probably a really natural thing to feel. And I guess even though I don't feel it now, I'm pretty sure I felt that way back when I started. And I think that my advice for you, if you're feeling that way, is to power on and keep on doing it, and to, you know, push yourself to take those risks anyways. And I think the more that you take the risks, and they might be big risks in your mind, but other people will either see it as you being brave and give you applause for that, or they might not even notice, right? Like, nobody expects us all to be perfect just because we're making videos. So I'm just some lady making videos in my basement. Like, nobody expects me to be perfect. This isn't my job. I don't do this for pay or anything. And so, you know, I think sometimes we need to take it easy on ourselves as crafters and you know, as YouTubers, to know that nobody expects anybody to be perfect, and if they do, they're having unreasonable expectations. So I hope that answers your question. And yeah, so but I think that's a kind of an interesting topic, and I think that probably a lot of YouTubers feel that way, like just that pressure of the camera rolling. And it's not until you do it a bunch that you kind of forget. So I'm at the point now where I video pretty much every one of my layouts, and I upload them all, even the wrinkly fingers one that ends up being ugly, because I just think it's just part of being real and presenting what I do, so that you can kind of see that there's a whole spectrum of what's good. And I love that wrinkly hands, wrinkly fingers layout, because it's like that memory and the story is still there. And even though I don't love, when I look at it, I kind of cringe a little bit and I think, yuck, what was I thinking? But at the same time, the story's still there, and I remember that day at the hotel and going in the pool and all the things, all the reasons that I scrapbooked that. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't look good. I still have the story, I still have the photo, and that's all that matters, right? So that's why we do this thing called scrapbooking. So I went on a tangent there, but that's, you know, anybody who's watching, if you guys have anything to add to this conversation, I'd love to hear other people tell me, because I don't think I'm typical, because I've just been doing this for so long that I might not be the best person to comment on this. But feel free to jump in and say something to Suze here about this, and maybe I'll follow up on this on my next scrap chat. So thank you for the question. That was a very thought-provoking one, and I think one that probably lots of people have. Okay, so Tracy Ferguson has a question for me about the Caterpillar Pro versus my Fiskars trimmer. And, you know, Tracy isn't the only one who's noticed. I've received a couple of questions lately about why do I sometimes reach for my Fiskars trimmer and sometimes reach for my Caterpillar Pro. And I don't have a simple answer, so, you know, get ready. This is going to be a long one. Part of it is, well, sometimes one of them is just buried in my scrap room, like I haven't cleaned up for a while, and it's just kind of, the Caterpillar Pro in particular, which is that green one right there, that one is like a large square surface, so it's a perfect place to accumulate layouts that are already done or layouts that are in progress. And so that one is often buried. And then my other one, hang on a second. This one, my Fiskars trimmer, this is a Fiskars rotary desktop trimmer. And so I will link to the video where I reviewed my Caterpillar Pro, just so that you can see the Caterpillar Pro and how it works and what it does. But this is my desktop rotary Fiskars trimmer. And I have a list. I thought about this before I started this video, so I have a list of things to say about this. But this one is great for doing process videos because it's so light. It's very lightweight, and it's very familiar to me. So I've had this trimmer for a very long time, and what I find about this trimmer is that I know exactly where this is going to cut on a piece of paper. So when I have a piece of paper in this trimmer and I'm trying to cut along a very precise line, I know exactly just how far on the other side of this guide I need to push that piece of paper so that it cuts in exactly the right place that I want it to cut. So that's part of why I might reach for this one. I often will use this one when I'm cutting apart cut apart. So if I have some Ellie Studio or some of those Ormaloo ones from Caitlin Schaefer that come in the Scraptastic kits, I will almost always cut my cut aparts with this, just because I know it so well. So I like it because it's lighter, it's more familiar, and so I have more precision with it. And its price, you can't beat the price. Like, these Fiskars trimmers are really good trimmers, and I think that this one, which was the top of the line at the time, it was about $30, and that's in Canada. So if you live in the States, you're gonna get it for even less than that. So it's a great trimmer, and it's a great starting trimmer for a new scrapbooker because it's such a small investment, and they're great, and their blades are replaceable, and it's just, you know, you can get it anywhere. It's available at Michael's and Walmart and all those places. So it's a great starting trimmer. But the thing that I didn't like about that trimmer, and the big thing that made me be looking for another trimmer, is that it only goes to 8 inches, and then I made a mark that shows where the 8.5 inches is, just because 8.5 inches is such an important measurement for card making. So when you're cutting down a 12-inch paper into 8.5 by 11, you need to know where 8.5 inches is, and 11 is just kind of like 1 over this way. So because it only goes to 8.5 inches, that means that if you're cutting anything between 12 and 8.5 inches, you're doing math, which, you know, it's basic math, but still, like, it's kind of annoying that it doesn't just, they didn't just make this go to be 12 inches. Like, it will only have to be a little bit longer. So that was one thing that was annoying me. And by the way, the newer versions of this have, like, on the back side, this arm that pulls out and continues the measurement so that you can go to 12 inches. So if you're buying this new, that's not going to be your problem. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about buying a trimmer. But the other thing is that when you're cutting a piece of paper that has a designer's, like the manufacturer's strip on it, it doesn't fit. so you can't cut it. Hang on, let me get a piece of paper to show you. So if, for example, I have this piece of paper, it has the manufacturer strip on it right here, and if I wanted to trim this, if I want to trim it this way, that's no problem, it'll fit fine. But if I want to trim it this way, this is more than 12 inches because it includes this little strip. So if I wanted to take a cross section that grabbed this part of the pattern, for example, when I lift this up and put this in here, this paper is not gonna cut properly because I run into this problem where this paper is not sitting properly because there's just not enough room. From here to here is 12 inches, and so you can't fit a piece of paper in there lengthwise with the manufacturer's strip on it. It's not a huge problem, right? These are first world problems. But the Caterpillar Pro, on the other hand, does have room. It's heavy and big and bulky, so it's hard to show on this kind of a video. But you see that this whole area is the cutting area. So all the way from here, where the top of this paper is, to down there where the bottom of this paper is. So there's actually extra room for you to cut crosswise on a piece of paper with the manufacturer's strip on it. Not probably reason enough to buy this trimmer. Ugh. So the Caterpillar Pro I bought because I wanted a trimmer that I could just kind of use as a tabletop trimmer that was 12 inches or more and that was big and sturdy and provided good measurement. It's always sharp, which is really good because recently my Fiskars trimmer is getting dull and leaving kind of like terry, like not precise, raggedy edges. And so that green trimmer, the Caterpillar Pro, is always going to be sharp. It self-sharpens. Every time you cut it, it gets sharper and sharper. So I'll never have to replace that. So for example, if I wanted to do some scrapbooking today without going out and buying a new blade, I always have that one. It's also better for slivers, the Caterpillar Pro. The Caterpillar Pro is... I need to stop looking at that and just focus on myself here. The Caterpillar Pro is better for cutting really thin slivers, and you'll have to watch my video to see what I mean by that, but it can cut like less than a millimeter, like the tiniest little bit it can just take right off. So it's good for that. I guess my overall opinion is that the Fiskars trimmer is definitely what I would recommend for beginners and for people who just want to have a trimmer and don't really care if it's 12 inches and that sort of thing. The Caterpillar Pro, however, it provides a really great cutting surface. It's always sharp. It's heavy duty. It's not going to warp, or that's the other thing, is that this one is made out of plastic. And it doesn't always cut straight because of that. So sometimes, when you butt the paper up against this, it doesn't always cut straight. So I have to use these lines instead of using the bumpers for lining up the paper. That's something I forgot to say about that one. So that's another con of that one. Whereas the Caterpillar Pro is made out of metal. It is all lined up and it's going to be lined up forever and ever. So that is definitely a benefit with the Caterpillar. So I guess what I'm saying is that for beginners, the Fiskars trimmer is a great long-term investment. It can be your trimmer forever if you wanted it to be. And I would say that the Caterpillar Pro is a great option for people who are dissatisfied with their Fiskars trimmer and who want a larger surface and maybe a heavier duty, very lined up, precise trimmer. Now, Tracy, I've seen your name around. I know that you're not a beginner scrapbooker, so maybe you want to consider the Caterpillar. It's considerably more expensive, so it's around $100, maybe $110 in Canada. And, you know, that's a lot of money for a trimmer. So you got to kind of think about all the other stuff that you could have bought with $100. I'm glad to have it. but I can't give up my Fiskars trimmer. So I guess, you know, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for from a trimmer. There is no perfect, awesome, wonderful, be-all, end-all trimmer that I know of, but you just have to try to pick one based on what you think is important. Okay, so my next question is about album flips. So will I be doing another album flip? And the answer is yes, I'll be doing one really soon because I'm running out of album space upstairs. So the way that I do my album flips, and album flips are just videos where I go through an older album and I just show you some of my older layouts and talk about some of them and just flip through and show you. It's a really nice way for seeing how a person's style of scrapbooking has changed over time. And just to kind of get an all at once, these are some of the layouts that I've done in a chunk of time. So the way that I do my album flip videos is this is just how I work my album. So I always have an album down here that's in progress, so it's not full, and I just keep it over there. And when it's full, I get a new album, keep it down here, and I move the filled album upstairs and I store it with my albums where I keep my albums. But there's no room up there for more albums, so then I take out one of the albums, one of the oldest album that's already up there, and replace it with my new album. Everything shifts forward a little bit, and then I take the old album and I put it in my back room. I've got a shelf where I'm storing my albums in the back room, my older albums. And so every time that I do that, I do an album flip before I put it in the back room. So that will be coming up very shortly, so keep an eye out for that. And then my very last question is from Donna, who is Sunny Bunny on YouTube. Hi, Donna. And she is asking me about gold mists. So she noticed that I have 2 gold mists in my recent video on mists. These are my 2 favorite kinds of mists. I have Heidi Swap Color Shine, which is, it comes with a little shaker ball in it. And all of these have a metallic shimmer to them. And then Mr. Huey's, which usually are not metallic, but this one is metallic. Usually Mr. Huey's are not shimmery and not metallic, and they're just beautiful colors. And so I have both of these in my stash. I just did a mist swatch video in my Scrap Room Sunday, so check that out if you're interested in how I swatch my mists. But I have my swatches here, and I have these 2 mists to show you. So this is what Mr. Huey's looks like, and I do have 2 golds. And if you're wondering what the difference is between the 2 of them, I'm not entirely sure that my camera is going to pick it up, but this one in the front here is Heidi Swap Gold, and this one in the back is Mr. Huey's Gold, the one I'm tapping right now. Now, Mr. Huey's Gold it is metallic, it does shimmer. I'm not entirely sure that you can see that, but it does shimmer. But it has more of a yellowy look to it, and it is lighter than the Heidi Swap Gold. It's really a lot more like a metallic yellow, whereas Heidi Swap Gold is so shiny, so shimmery, and so gold that it looks almost like liquid gold, molten gold has been dropped onto your project. Like, that's how beautiful it is. It is stunningly gorgeous. The Heidi Swap Color Shine Gold, awesome stuff. Like, it is like liquid gold. By the way, if you're buying an older bottle of this, it will be called Gold Lame. They're the same color. If I had to buy one, I would definitely buy this one. This is the one. I bought this because I couldn't find this. And so I bought this, and you know, it's fine until you see this. Then this came into stock and I bought this. I am glad that I use this, and I do still sometimes reach for it. So the Mr. Huey's Gold is really good for those times when you just want a touch of gold, or just kind of like a subtle touch of gold, because this is so beautiful that sometimes it kind of steals the show, right? So if you're looking for something that's more subtle, the Mr. Huey's Gold. I wouldn't go out and buy both of these just to have 2 different options for gold. For me, I don't know. I don't think it's that important to have different options within gold. I guess it depends on how big your mist collection is. If you've got all the colors already and you want to have a more subtle version of gold, go ahead and get the Mr. Huey's Gold, because it is a nice, more yellowy, less dazzling kind of gold. But if you have a limited supply of mists or a limited space to store your stuff, get the Heidi Swapp Gold. You will not be disappointed. It's awesome. I can't compare it to any other brands because I really mostly just use Mr. Huey's and Heidi Swapp. It's not that I'm not open to different brands, it's just that's all that I've tried so far. People tell me good things about the white version of Dilutions. I have a Dilutions. People tell me good things about the white Dilutions and about Lindy's Stamp Gang and a couple of other different mists that are out there. So, you know, it's nice to, next time I buy some mists, if I get a chance to try those, I will. It's just, I have them for what, I just don't have everything, you know. Who does? So that's my opinion on these two golds. If you guys know of another gold that's great, feel free to leave a message in the comments below so that we can share our information about what's good to get and what's not great to get. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been a really fun video to make. I hope you guys have found it helpful and enjoyable. This is actually my second round of this video because I ended up not saving it properly, and so I went through really fast. And so if I missed anything or didn't talk enough about something, I don't suspect that that's a problem. I think I talked plenty. But if I skipped anything, it might be because I said it the first time and forgot to say it on my re-recording. So just let me know and I'll try to answer your question. Okay, thanks so much. Take care and have a great scrappy week.